Have you ever wondered what would happen if the TV show True Detective was set in New York City, was a little more gay, had a love child with a version of Rent, produced by Neon with less music and more puppets? Well, that's what happens when you get Netflix's new miniseries, Eric. Now, I actually don't know when this is releasing, so I'm not sure exactly how new it will be at this point. But I feel like I haven't heard anybody talking about it. I sat down to watch the first episode yesterday, and I watched the entire thing in like 24 hours because, damn, it works so much for me. And miniseries work for me, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But just to get into it, if you're interested, Eric, the premise of the first episode, I'm not going to talk too much about spoilers in this first minute. Benedict Cumberbatch is this like knockoff Jim Henson type, works on a children's puppet televised show, has a rocky marriage with his wife, and their son goes missing. And that's the premise of the first episode. That's the premise of the series, right? But it follows what happens at home, what they're happening, the wife, Cassie, and Vincent are doing to find their child, what happens on the police investigation, and how it could intersect with the investigation of another missing child. So it's very interesting. I'm going to talk now a little bit about spoilers of themes, because, man, this show is so exciting. This show tackles so many topics in so few episodes. In just 6 episodes, this show covers police corruption, the AIDS crisis, said smiling, the homeless epidemic in New York at the time, missing children, prejudices against queer people, right? Dealing with the AIDS crisis, lack of public resources, and what happens when we as a society neglect people who don't have the means to help themselves. As Arthur Fleck would say, what happens when you cross a mentally ill loner in a society that doesn't care about them? You got what you fucking deserve. Right? So this is... I'm feeling delusional right now. But this show is so exciting. This show is super gritty, super dark. It does kind of feel like if Neon did a miniseries, right? Very HBO-esque for Netflix. Not to shit on Netflix. I have nothing against Netflix. I love Netflix. I just don't always enjoy the original series that Netflix produces as much as I do from other networks. As soon as HBO drops a show, I'm like... But I say that again, but my favorite show of all of last year was also a miniseries produced by Netflix, which is Beef, with Steven Yeun and Ali Wong. And I still feel, after it literally sweeping award season, still feel like nobody's fucking seen it. And I have nobody to talk to about it, even though it's the best show I've seen in years. And I'll talk about that a little bit too. Okay, so Beef, the premise of Beef is there's this down on his luck guy and a corporate businesswoman, and then they get into a road rage incident. And then what ensues after is the drama between those two people. Again, another wild series that just escalates super, super quickly. Now, that's actually a miniseries that's produced by A24, I think released in conjunction with Netflix. I'm not sure the exact titles on that, right? But I want to talk a little bit today. That's a little wind-up way for me to say, why do I think miniseries work? Think about, can you think of the last miniseries you watched? My partner's favorite, Band of Brothers, HBO original, Beef, Baby Reindeer. That's a Netflix original miniseries that was just produced outside. Anyways, regardless, the legal entanglements very much confuse me. But that's super popular at the moment. That's sweeping, or I guess more was last month. The time passes so quickly. Scenes from a Marriage, HBO. I don't know if American Crime Story is anthology or if that's technically qualified as a miniseries. I would have to look. Same with White Lotus. I think that's just a series at this point, but the anthology style storytelling, right? What works with miniseries for me is 4 things. When you have a miniseries, you know it's going to be one season, right? Or at least the story is going to be told over the course of just one season. So the commitment for me to enter into a miniseries is so much easier than it is to enter into a normal series. I get super fucking intimidated when people ask me to watch long TV series. You know, I just started recently watching a Star Trek series and I'm like, Jesus Christ, there are so many seasons in this. How will I ever get to the end of that, right? That's the same reason I feel like so intimidated to start watching One Piece, because I know that I'm never going to fucking watch all of it. And that's intimidating for me, right? Will the characters ever reach a catharsis? Is there any kind of like, when is the payoff? Are there payoffs in small bits? I like want resolution and I want excitement. And I know that One Piece is probably a bad example. It's like probably the most beloved anime currently releasing at the moment, and manga. And I'm sure there's an amazing reason for it, but it's super intimidating. And I feel like a lot of people who are fans of that have to admit that there's some intimidation of, I don't want to jump into it. There's too much, you know. Feel the same way about, I don't know if anybody's ever sat down and said, I want to start watching The Simpsons all the way through. I'm sure somebody has, right? But if they would, I'd feel the same way, right? Or these long sitcoms that have like 5, 7, 10 seasons. I'm like, I don't know. It just is too much investment and I have too little time. Because miniseries are packed into one season, the pacing inevitably is so thrilling to me. Because you have to get new information every 20 seconds, 40 seconds, because otherwise it's a waste of a shot. It's a waste of a scene, and they don't have time for that because the whole point is that they're telling the story in the most concise way possible. So I often find that the pacing in these is just freaking impeccable. I felt that way super, super much about Eric. It still had the feeling and the tone of like a slow burn, slow reveal, but you're literally getting new information about what's happening. So it's really interesting. I love the pacing, and then that automatically hooks me in. Eric specifically has an awesome hook at the end of the first episode, and I think at the end of every episode, consequently, it's the same with like the sitcom punch of like the last 30 seconds of a sitcom. I just finished watching Superstore. They do this. I mean, every show has its shtick, right? But at the end of like an hour-long drama, like a televised drama, right? You reveal some kind of new information, the soap thing, right? So I'm hooked. Now I have to watch the next episode because they just dropped something crazy. The doorknob confession, as my dad would say. My stepdad, Wes. Shout out to Wes if you watch this. You probably think I curse too much in this video, but I love you anyways. Anyways, the casting in Eric, by the way, brilliant. Absolutely exciting. Benedict Cumberbatch leads out, and then a bunch of faces that you're like, oh, I've seen this actor before, giving incredible, incredible performances, especially that of Detective LeDroit. I was just like so invested by everything he said, every single word he said. And I feel like that's really consistent across miniseries, right? Because it's like, you're not investing in a long-term series, you know? I do know people who are hooked into things because they are long-term investments and they're going to get to know the characters and there's more plot and there's more exciting and stuff. But in a miniseries, it's like, what am I watching for? You know? What am I watching for? So I feel like a lot of these shows have really great names attached because they want you to watch. They want you to invest a short amount of time, right? So for some people, I guess that could be a turn off, but whatever. I don't know. I hope I see the rise of a miniseries. Eric really, really is wonderful. It's very dark. I would say it's R-rated. It's kind of a tough watch. It's really, there's a couple scenes, and you know, if you know me, I'm not opposed to gore. I don't really have like, there's not a lot of things that make me like flinchy or cringy or anything. But man, there is a scene, and this is a spoiler. There's a scene where there's some like implied and shown police brutality, and it is so hard to watch. It was very difficult to watch, and it's more implied than it is even shown. But I was just like, man, whew, brutal. And that's what I love. I love a dark, gritty miniseries. And another spoiler, by the way, if you're still wondering, should I watch this or not? I think this show has a hopeful ending. It managed to make me happy and sad, yet at the same time. And there's no way I thought this could resolve itself, and yet it still found a way. Anyways, here to rep all miniseries. Go check out Eric on Netflix. Please drop in the comments below what you thought. I am dying to talk to somebody about this. Please, somebody watch the show and then comment what you thought. Anyways, have a good one. Bye.